I am in Eindhoven, and today I'm at a company called SMART Photonics. I'm joined by their CEO, Johan Feenstra. This is Europe's pure play foundry for indium phosphide photonic integrated circuits. As you saw at OFC, indium phosphide is positioned to be the material needed for the next generation AI when it comes to high speed, low energy connectivity. So we want to understand is from Johan Feenstra and Smart Photonics, what is the position that Europe can take in the global semiconductor photonics manufacturing? Johan, the AI era is pushing like never before. What I'm seeing here is that indium phosphide is uniquely positioned to be the material that provides the gain, that provides the high-speed modulation, and that provides the detection on the next stage photonics industry. What are you seeing from the industry these days?
No, I'm seeing the same thing. You know, the industry is pushing for higher and higher speeds at faster and faster rates, right? You want to go there faster and faster. And that's exactly where indium phosphide sits, right? Indium phosphide is actually solving a number of problems that the silicon base has. It has light, it generates light, it actually has the gain, it actually has the highest speed, and it has the high-speed detectors. And all of that can be done in a single chip.
But this is not new. We have been working on photonic integration on indium phosphide for many years. Why now? Why are we seeing such a big push from the industry today?
I think the volumes are going up. That's a big advantage for us as well, right? I mean, we are setting up manufacturing. We actually have a manufacturing line. We're scaling. We're bringing the cost down. And then you get into this virtuous circle, which also benefited the electronics, right? Driving the volumes up drives the cost down, makes new applications available, and that's exactly what we as a manufacturing company do as well.
What I have seen is that now it is the large photonics companies like Coherent, publicly talking about high volume production of indium phosphide. Of course, they will develop their own products. What is the gap that the Smart Photonics as a pure play foundry can cover?
We are making this technology accessible for everyone, right? So Coherent indeed is making their own products, is doing their own designs, and actually their competitors do not want to bring their designs to Coherent. So competitors come to us and other companies come to us as well because we have a technology platform on the basis of which people can actually design their own chip. So we are making this available to everyone as a foundry.
What we are seeing is that there was obviously a clear need for having ultra high speed modulation on chip. And for many years we have seen like a few companies interacting, working together to see what is the right material choice. And there you saw the emerging thin film lithium niobate, we saw polymers, we saw BTO, we saw the integration of those materials with plasmonics. There were a lot of approaches. Lately, it does seem that indium phosphide could be the solution. What are the hurdles that we think you need to overcome as an industry for indium phosphide to cover that gap of ultra high-speed modulation on chip?
Now, first of all, indeed, indium phosphide has all of that capability, has the material properties to do that high-speed modulation, which is dearly needed in the photonics industry. So pushing that forward, but it's not just the high-speed modulation that indium phosphide can do. It can do all of the other things integrated into a single chip. And this chip still has a size that is much smaller than a single thin film lithium niobate modulator, for instance, right? Integrating smaller chips on a silicon platform with heterogeneous integration is going to be definitely the way forward for the next coming years.
At OFC, at the executive forum, we saw the hyperscalers with doubts about reliability. They were wondering if we have overcome those issues. Why are they so worried about reliability? Are our chips not reliable?
To be honest, I mean, indium phosphide has been around, for 30 years now? You said it yourself, right? It's been around mostly in component form, right? We are integrating many components onto a single chip. So that's one of the new things that we are doing in a manufacturing mode. Reliability, we actually deliver a reliable platform, right? And it's based on reliable processing that has been out there for decades. So I think indium phosphide has shown, I mean, the whole internet is actually based on indium phosphide lasers.
Every chip that leaves Smart Photonics has been tested and have improved. What is the testing process that you enable here?
So we have our own testing facilities where we test everything that goes through the line. right? So at every step of the process, we check whether things have gone well, whether things are within the process limits, so we know what's going through the line. At the end of the line, we also test the so-called PCMs, the process control modules, to allow us to actually show and demonstrate to our customers that what we promised to do at the very beginning, we also did. And in some cases, we also test for customers. We test reliability, we test for long hours, so we know what's going out of the line, what's going to a customer.
You can do photonic integration here at Smart Photonics. You can integrate many components on a chip. But of course, indium phosphide is the ideal gain material for silicon photonics as well. How is that collaboration happening?
So we are actually working and focusing on heterogeneous integration of indium phosphide on silicon. Using microtransfer printing, using wafer level bonding, doing flip chip type of things. So there's all kinds of ways of bringing the indium phosphide on the silicon, making use of the benefits of both of the platforms in a single device for our end customer. So working very closely with the CMOS fabs is very important to us because, for the foreseeable future, clearly there's going to be a combination of multiple material platforms to deliver the best possible performance for our customers.
One of your strategic partners is Xfab, and for many years you have been providing the indium phosphide material so they can use their proprietary microtransfer printing to put in silicon photonics. What is your preferred future here?
I think working with these companies is really very important for our end customers, right? So because end customers don't really care about material systems. What they want is a specification, is high performance. Bringing two platforms together in the best possible way, for instance by microtransfer printing, is the way forward. And that's where I really like our strategic relationship with Xfab.
The strategy always, for many years, from the very beginning of Smart Photonics, you always saw open access. That was always everywhere, in all the communication material. What does it really mean, open access?
Yeah, open access really means open access, right? When I came 6 years ago, I had to explain what the Foundry model is. Clearly, with TSMC now being probably one of the most valuable tech companies in the world, people understand the value of having open access, of actually delivering this platform to any customers in a way that actually allows them to design the chip. We have a process design kit. Our customers actually can go in, have a very reliable process design kit because we have made these building blocks many, many, many times. However, indeed, customers often want to actually tweak to their own desire, right? And that's perfectly possible. So we work with our customers, with their development teams on a long-term basis to actually optimize the solution for their purpose. And that actually then comes back to the PDK and is allowed to be offered to other customers later on as well, An
entry point to access indium phosphide technology at Smart Photonics is multi-project wafer runs, MPWs. What is the current position of Smart Photonics on MPW offering?
Yeah, we have it. It's very important to us to actually get customers in, to help customers know and understand the technology. So we are offering our standard C-band MPW platform. We've also added our O-band MPW platform, so people can get onto it, understand the technology, understand the design space, and then actually move on to do their own dedicated wafers where they have even more design space, where they even have more capabilities of tweaking and of actually making something that really suits their purpose.
What is the standard difficulty on going from a chip or an MPW towards a full wafer?
There's no difficulty actually. It's a benefit. You're allowed to have a little bit more space. I mean, we talked earlier about development together with a company. Development together with a company is much easier for us to do on a dedicated wafer. But running an MPW on the lines, on the side, or gives you a capability also to, on a very cheap way, get access to the technology, understand what it can do, and also understand what the design space is.
Let's talk about the space. 6 inches. Indium phosphide at 6 inches. Why?
I think in the end, it also is what you've seen in electronics, right? Driving the wafer size up is driving the cost down. That's more than anything. In the end, a customer gets a chip. He doesn't know whether it came from a 4-inch or a 6-inch wafer, but he knows it in the cost in the end. So going up in wafer size, I think it's very important to also enable the cost to go down to a level where we have new applications again that are not possible with higher cost. So driving that is very important. And also here in Eindhoven, a 6-inch line will be built to actually make that step to larger wafer sizes.
Tell us a bit about that line. How many wafers per year?
That line is going to do 10,000 wafers to begin with, but can be expanded to 20,000 6-inch wafers over time. And I think that's really, it's another step in manufacturability, in growth, in predictability of the ecosystem here in the Netherlands.
20,000 wafers at 6 inches is a lot of chips. A lot. In Europe, this high volume manufacturing in Europe not always has been successful. What are the advantages and challenges that you think Smart Photonics has for doing this ultra high volume manufacturing here in Eindhoven?
So, Jose, we have been doing manufacturing in the Netherlands for a long time already. You know NXP, you know Nexperia. These guys are actually making many chips out of the Netherlands, out of other places as well, but a lot of that comes out of the Netherlands. So we have the capabilities, we have the knowledge to do it. And it's really important that we actually get back manufacturing of also integrated photonic chips, high volume manufacturing back into Europe, also given the geopolitics that is going on at the moment. But let's face it also, Smart Photonics is really in a unique position, not just in Europe, but actually globally, of driving indium phosphide into the high volume market by growth of our capacity. That's been something that actually the Dutch government has been very supportive of, right? Smart Photonics has had public-private financing for the last couple of rounds, so the Dutch government has been extremely positive in supporting Smart in this way. Europe is now also starting to understand that. The European Chips Act has been very important. The first steps of actually supporting R&D, innovation stuff. But I think that Europe is also changing its opinion now in terms of industry funding directly, right? It's very important that we make the step in Europe from innovation-driven funding to actually industry-driven funding.
Well, let's talk about those geopolitics. Well, at this moment, we are facing that some of the European companies have to do business with companies in the United States, with companies in Asia, and it's not clear what are the rules of the game. I'm pretty sure you have been meeting with many people and discussed this topic. What's on your mind? How are we going to address this situation?
I think in the Netherlands we've always been a trading nation, right? So,
yes.
and we will continue to be so. I think it's important. To me, it's important to keep things open. Although I think other people are thinking differently, it's very important that we, certainly in the semiconductor space and in the photonic space, the value chain is very complex. We work with a lot of different companies. We have the customers all over the place. So it's important that we actually continue to collaborate with each other. But at the same time, you also need to make your, what they call choke points. You need to have your balance of power in this global geopolitical space, right? And actually Smart Photonics being one, a unique high volume manufacturing indium phosphide foundry is one of those potential choke points. And that's also what we understand in Europe. And therefore, it's very important that we build companies like Smart Photonics to be able to service a global market.
But is it difficult? I assume it is very difficult right now in the current situation. We don't know how we're going to have to interact with the countries where your potential and current customers are. How do you define a strategy when you don't know even what are the tariffs that you're going to have to pay for your technology?
Yeah, that's very difficult, of course, because there is no, today is different than yesterday, and tomorrow is going to be different again. So that's very difficult to put a strategy on something that is changing so fast. So I think one of the most important things we need to get is consistency. right, is because we at SMART Photonics are not going to solve the geopolitical situation, right? So it's very important that the Dutch government, that the European government is actually consistently bringing out the message how we want to deal with this, bringing out a plan how we want to deal with this. In my humble opinion, doing tariffs on tariffs is only going to make things worse. So actually diffusing the situation, keeping the conversation open, having the dialogue open, seeing if semicon/photonics can be, sort of a place where, in the end, we need to bring this technology to everyone, right, globally. Everyone needs electronics, everyone needs photonics. So it's very important in the end to everyone that we have an open conversation on how to deal with this.
What I have seen whenever I come to Eindhoven is that the companies here are really close to each other. And there is something called photon delta. Well, what is photon delta?
Photon delta is a very strong collaborative ecosystem around photonics. This started 15 years ago. It's been growing a lot. I mean, new companies have been added, larger companies have been added, and it's helping us collaborate currently within the Dutch ecosystem. But actually, since a couple of years, it goes way beyond the Dutch ecosystem. So Photon Delta is actually also going across border boundaries. We have international participation in the ecosystem now. And this whole advocacy of integrated photonics for the future, for the global environment, is something that also Photon Delta is now picking up. Together with Photon Delta, also we at SMART Photonics and with a number of other CEOs in Europe are working with the European Union to really scope and make this vision of what the integrated photonics ecosystem industry will look like in 5 or 10 years' time, and what is required to get there.
The world in general is very jealous of Eindhoven, very jealous of the Netherlands, very jealous of the activity of Photon Delta, because the government listens to you. And I'm not saying this is not happening in other regions, but it's not so easy in other regions. What advice would you give companies in other locations in the world when it comes to interacting with their governments?
Yeah, and this success, if you want to call it like that, is not something that came out of the blue, right? I mean, it's also something that is a result of investments that started 30 years ago. And positioning integrated photonics as the economy, as part of the economy of the future for the Dutch ecosystem, for the Dutch country, for the Netherlands, is something that has resonated with the government. Working very closely with the government, making them understand what kind of gold we have in our hands, making them understand also what is the long-term picture of driving this technology to success, to be the economy of the future, I think has been part of the success, right? Making them understand this is not something that is an investment for now, but this is an investment for the future.
Today, you are the CEO of a fab of indium phosphide chips, integrated and discrete components, but indium phosphide chips. Let's play the crystal ball game. 2030, I come back to Eindhoven. The weather is as good as today. How does SMART Photonics look like?
So SMART Photonics in 2030 is really a tier 1 supplier to all our customers. Customers in the AI space, customers in the data telecom space, but we're growing then also in the sensor space, for instance, in consumer electronics. That's really filling our fab, driving next steps of growth for SMART Photonics, and being a real key player in the integrated photonics industry globally.
A few years ago, many years ago, I fell in love with VCSELs. And I was telling them people, well, VCSELs are the great solution to put data into a chip. And everybody was thinking, no, they can do much more than that. I said, I don't know. And now you have VCSELs in every mobile phone. Is this the future of indium phosphide photonic integrated circuits and discrete components? Are we going to see them in every application field?
Absolutely. I mean, the technology is so broad that sometimes, I would say, but I mean, many of the problems that we currently face can be solved with integrated photonics in general. And indium phosphide is an absolute key in this success of the integrated photonics.
So what do the rest of the people, the rest of the community, what can they do to help you get there faster?
I think, in the end, the full value chain has to
Yeah.
deliver to an end customer, right? And an end customer doesn't want to be a supply chain manager. So he wants to see how we actually move from the chip to the end application that they have in mind. So there's steps in between. Packaging, for one. Packaging is very expensive at the moment. Now, one of the ways of reducing the overall cost for the end customers is integrating functions into the single chip that we can deliver. However, in the end, it still needs to be packaged. So growing the packaging capabilities, I think, is very important. The step after that, system engineering, right? In the end, again, a customer wants to have a system that actually does what they are asking for. Having companies doing the system engineering from the chip, from the package, all the way to the end customer is a very, very important step in the value chain. And there, I think there can be a lot more effort being spent on getting that optimized and mature.
Johan, it has been great to be here, to see the facilities, to see the company keep growing. I can't wait to come back. I think I will come back earlier than 2030. This has been a great experience. Thank you very much. Stay tuned because there will be more conversations like this one. Bye-bye.